This is an idea that I thought about, and I think other people have talked about this. Conservatives have talked about simple taxation, basically having taxes, the rules only for 4 pages, I believe. But I don't want to make it too simple in the sense that it's a flat tax, because I think a flat tax is a regressive tax, but definitely have a way that a normal person can do their taxes and not have to worry about going to jail. I always thought about why they never taught us how to do our taxes when we were in school. And this is something that if you don't do it right, you can actually go to jail.
Yeah, so this is an article I saw, Political, talking about California has something called Ready Return. It had a pilot in 2005, which is something that they have in other countries where basically the government sends you a pre-filled tax form. Since they already know all your deductions, they know, how much you're getting paid, whatever is taken out by your boss, they already know all this. So they just tell you, this is what we know. You could either say like, yep, this is cool, send it back, or be like, nah, let me fix it. So this is something that was there, and they had a 98 approval rating when they did the pilot in California. In Denmark, they had an 80% participation rate over there since 1988. But you mentioned conservatives liking simple taxes, but they really don't, because this was opposed by Grover Norquist, which is somebody that's always talking about shrinking the government and making things simple. But he was opposed to it because basically he said if you make it too simple for people to file their taxes, then they're going to pay them. and then the government will grow or something. That was his thing. But luckily, California kept the Ready Return, and they put it into something in their Cal file, which is that online tax prep, so they could just do it online, which is also something that the Grover Norquist and the Free File Alliance, which included Intuit and H&R Block, they were against, because it will make it easier for people to file their taxes online. So, whenever they say conservatives that they for simplification of the tax, no, they don't. They just want more tax breaks for the rich, and that's about it.
Yeah, I think that we don't have to make taxes themselves too much simpler, because I know the rich, they're really going to hold on to that hard, because that's where they get a lot of their kickbacks from. But exactly. At the very least, the return itself should be much simpler. There's 40% of our country currently just fills out a simple, easy 1040 return. So, it's really just as simple as, here's how much I made, here's how much of the taxes I paid, here's how much I still owe. That 40% of the country does that right now. So why not make it so that they can just check a box and say, yeah, you've done it for me, it's accurate, I'll pay those taxes. Like Alito said, this is already being done, or has been done in California and a lot of Scandinavian countries. In Japan, it's actually even been supported all the way back to Reagan. George W. Obama has spoken on this as well, that all saying that they want to enact something like this. And let's also think about the fact that the time and money it takes to file taxes, even if they're simple, hurt poor people the most, because we don't have the time and money to file our taxes, even if they're a simple return. So, and on top of all that, I found that 5% of the population doesn't do their tax returns, which results in $30 billion a year in lost tax payments. So really, every which way you look at it, it's a no-brainer. I want to point out that Hassan Minhaj does a great piece on this in the Patriot Act show that he does. You can find the clips on Netflix or YouTube, so go check those out.
$30 billion a year, that's half of taxpayer-funded college right there.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, and
figured that to solve homelessness was about 10 billion. Go ahead, Carly.
So look at that. Yeah, no. Another thing that somebody might brought up that is a Trump supporter, that Trump tried to do a simple tax to make it into a postcard, but really wasn't. The postcard was the size of like an 8.5 by 11 sheet, and then to fill out all the sections, you have to do a separate worksheet. So it really wasn't simpler at all. So it's just a ridiculous attempt.
Yeah, and I think it's Denmark or one of the Scandinavian countries. They can literally do it by text message. You get a text saying, "Are you good with this?" You reply yes, and your taxes are done. That's how simple it should be.
Yeah, and
like again, it goes back to what we were saying, right? Corporation and all this one, they're gonna be against it because they're gonna be like, "Oh, that's hurting my bottom line," right? Like you go to H&R Block and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna charge you $100 just to click a button that you could have clicked at home," and there you go. You pay me $100, and and by the way, we're gonna give you the money up front right away because we'll get it right back. So they're going to take that away. But we know, like, we got to also look, right? Like, we know that the U.S., they're not going to try to teach people how the concept of how to, like, you know, simplify your taxes or simplify your budget and being more financially ready, just because it is what it is, right? It's our history, right? They want us to not understand it. They want us to just feel that it's complicated, because there's a lot of times those people that have great accountants, they get away much, right? Those people that don't know anything, they ended up paying like this. I know people that make no money and I'm paying like $6,000. We were like, oh, how do I pay $6,000 when so and so didn't even pay anything just because
What about the whole industry that would just get wiped out? Like, John, you just brought up that point. Like, there's a whole, you know, my wife's uncle does our taxes. He has a whole storefront and everything that he does taxes. There's other people, there's software companies. I'm sure they lobby against something like this.
Yeah, that was the whole Free File Alliance that was formed to oppose the California law, and it had people that Intuit and H&R Block, because that's their business model. And well, for most people, the tax is easy, so they're really not necessary for people. They're really more for business taxes and things like that. But even that is way too complicated to begin with, you know. And we know this because also the IRS, they're focusing more on the easy taxes. Like for cases of tax evasion, and to audit people, because it will take too much time and too much money to go against the people that are really reaping the benefits of going through all those loopholes and deductions, because they have the expensive lawyers. You know, that's the corporations and the people that have their, you know, the investment bankers and things like that. They found every trick in the book to not pay taxes. So I think simplification across the board will be great, in my opinion.
Exactly. That's why Grover Norcrest doesn't want it to be that simple. Because if you have a progressive tax where, like, if you're making $50,000 a year, you pay, let's say, 15%. But if you're making above 300,000, you're making, you have to pay 30%. And then I believe AOC, she said if she wanted to charge 70% for people making, I think it was above 10 million, that anything above 10 million, everything from there would get. I'm sorry?
That was Liz Warren.
No, AOC. Don't bring it that phony snake in here. In my talk.
Oh wow!
Don't bring it up in here. I was just playing. But nah, it was AOC. I'm gonna put the article up or whatever.
I think Liz Warren, she did propose a wealth tax.
I think she did also. I was joking.
Wealth tax is different than the income tax. So the wealth tax is like the 5% or 3%.
Yeah.
No.
Go ahead, Felipe.
No, you're right. No, you're right.
Yeah, it was a wealth tax that she had that was 2%, like Gabe just said. But AOC was talking about 70%. Like, the media went crazy, like CNBC, you know, all the shows that the rich people watch, they went crazy after AOC said that.
What people don't realize about that is earlier, like in the late 1900s, there was a 90% wealth tax on every dollar earned above, I think it was $10 million.
Yeah.
And that was at the peak of the economy in the 1900s. There's no reason why it hurt. There's no reason why people who make that actually absurd, disgusting amount of money shouldn't be able to just make there's no necessity to make more than $10 million a year. Like, and to just, sure, you're taxed 70% of it. 70% is a scary number, but if you're making
you're not taxed 70% of it. You're taxed 70% on the amount
after 10 million
over that amount. Yeah.
Over 10 million. But Felipe, man, I'm trying to buy the Knicks away from Dolan. So how can you expect me to buy the Knicks away from Dolan if after 10 million you're going to tax me at 70%?
Hey, just invested in your company, man, because that's one way that you know, these taxes have been positive in the past, is because if you invested back into the company, you're not going to get taxed over it. You know, they're staying into growing your business. That's
what they used to do. That was before, you know, the taxes just started crazy. You know, Trump had his tax cut, the Bush tax cut. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And then we have Biden, who says, oh yeah, I'm going to put the taxes back up, but he's not even going to put it back to where it was before the Trump had his tax cut. I believe it was 35% before, and then Biden wants to put it back to 28%. Felipe, go ahead.
Yes, Joe Biden's tax plan will actually produce more revenue than the 35%, because Joe Biden's tax plan implements a 15% tax floor. So companies that are previously historically not paying any taxes, such as Amazon, would have to pay 15% tax on whatever their book profit was, when their book profit is what they base their stock value on. So if they wanted to drive down, if they wanted to drive down their book profit, they would essentially drive down their entire business model and drive down the worth of Amazon by lying to not pay taxes. So in reality, they can't evade that 15% by reinvesting it. They can't evade it by sending it out of the country. They can't play those games because you will look at the book taxes, and that's not a number that you can play around with. That's based on every transaction the company has made, every sale, every credit sale, and that is something unchangeable. So they will get taxed.
You actually believe that? You actually down inside of you believe that?
John, I was about to say that it's going to be interesting to see how the lobbyists get rid of that provision. You know they're going
to fight.
I'm not questioning his ability to get it done. I'm saying that a 15% tax floor is a fantastic implementation into tax policy.
Yeah, if it does happen, I agree. That's a great kind of caveat to have in there. To have we know they're going to fight it. They're going to fight a 0.1% floor. We know they will, but at least. We gotta take what we could get, man. Sometimes, man, and hopefully, with enough push from progressives, we could implement something like that, because at least it could be seen as some kind of compromise versus going back to pre-Obama years or Obama.
But don't I think it's always the problem that I have. I think it's with Felipe and stuff is that's don't come say, oh, Joe Biden tax plan is so great. You have to be what think about could be some possibility.
Okay. I didn't say I wasn't vouching for him being the savior. He's going to do everything he says. It's more than likely he's not going to do most of what he says. But I can judge a policy based on what's written, the ink on the paper. You can do that without having to judge the person enacting it.
No, you have to judge people's character. Joe Biden being in office for 40 years and always being
it's a qualitative analysis. You're saying I think he's going to do this. Okay, congratulations, you used an analogy, but you can't just say I feel this way because he's done this. I'm just saying the policy that's written on the paper, the 15% floor tax based on book profits, is well written and a very strong implementation. I'm not saying he's going to get it done. I'm not saying he's going to champion that till the day he dies. I'm saying that's a good policy written down on the paper.
If it were to pass, it's a good policy, but no one believes that Joe Biden will pass it because he recently said that nothing's going to change in discussions with Wall Street. His staffers, I don't think he said it directly. But it might have been a speech, who knows.